Now we're recording. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding us.
I'm sorry we didn't get what you beautiful meditation and what you said was so beautiful, and all the different labels, because he did have so many. My sister Janet is on the Zoom, and my son Kevin, my younger son Kevin, is on the Zoom, both on the West Coast. And some of you I know, and many of you I don't know, but I thank you all for being here today and look forward to hearing your memories. He in my earliest memory, he was in Hollywood at the monastery, but before that, he was a performer traveling around with creative artists as a musician, dancer, pianist, plays beautiful piano, lots of old standards, dancer, and he did that. And I think he entered the monastery around late 20s, early 30s. And he had that chapter. And then at some point he decided to move up to Sedona and helped out with my grandmother who had moved there from LA, and became grandfather morning owl and a healer and a medicine man, and did even more art. He did art throughout the years in the monastery. But he really embraced the idea of doing contemplative art, and then he just welcomed so many people into his life. I mean, it didn't matter if he'd never met them before and they were walking down a street and said hello, and before you knew it, he was cooking a dinner for them. So he was very generous, always opening his home and his heart, and a very, very kind soul. And so we stayed in touch all these years. When I moved to the East Coast many years ago, I saw less of him, but would see him when I got out to Sedona. And then he came out when I married my late husband, Carr, and was at our wedding, and then he would come visit. And the last time he visited, and I share this because this was just who he was. The last time he visited, we were sitting out on the deck, and within 5 minutes, two bald eagles were just flying right over us, just right over us. That had never happened before. These bald eagles lived way far away. They didn't live on our side of the neighborhood. But there they were. And they stayed with us for a long time. And that was just so Uncle Jimmy, just brought that magic and that closeness to nature. He loved hiking. He loved being in nature. We took a lot of hikes in Sedona when I was visiting there, and he really appreciated everything around him, and was very present, very in the moment, and just an extraordinary person. I have about an 8-minute slideshow that we'll show at the end, and thank you all for those of you who found photos to send them. I wish I had more. I'm sure some of them are in boxes somewhere. I moved not that long ago, so but I did what I could, and I really appreciate those of you who were able to find some photos and send them. So, and I would just love to hear your memories and stories.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you so much for sharing with us. As we go along, I may have some questions for you. So what I'd like to do is just the way is call someone from the monastery and then call someone from the Zoom. So from Zoom, if you'd like to raise your hand, we'll get to you. We want to make sure we get to everybody as we pay tribute and honor to our dear friend. First from the monastery, would anybody like to start off here? You want to come? Oh, yeah, let's go ahead. By the way, I want to let you know, this morning when I woke up and I walked out the front door, this was a feather that I found right in front of the front door. I don't find feathers like, can everybody see this? Yes. Yeah. So I don't find feathers like this, rarely or never. So, but this morning when I got up, I found this, and I thought that his name of grandfather morning owl, his presence is here. You know, he said to me, he's like, I'm glad the monastery got cleaned up. Otherwise, I'd have to come back as a ghost to haunt you guys. So I think he's giving his blessing through this. Abaya, come up.
Hello, my name is Abai. First, I'll read the reminiscences of our dear sister Jayanti, who's sitting in the corner. And her reminiscence, and then I'll share just a few of my own. Her reminiscences are titled Thinking of Buddhananda. It says,
Can we just bring Jayanti up here so that we can just, I'd love for the audience to see her also as you speak these words to her. Can you see Jayanti?
very good. It would be easier if you could lift the wheelchair about 3 feet off the ground. Jayanti's reminiscences, thinking of Buddhananda. It was wonderful to have Buddhananda among us in recent years, hearing his laughter again. My introduction to the community of Vedanta was in meeting, quote, mighty monk and, quote, super Swami, as Swami B cheerfully dubbed himself and Swami Atmarupananda while they were pulling my wheelchair and me up the steps one day. I typically spent Wednesday afternoon at the monastery to later attend arati and class. Buddhananda would often make me tea. Until we got the ramp, a Swami was always on hand, and mighty monk and super Swami each became adept at helping me in and out of the monastery. I can recall seeing Swami B coming down the stairs as I waited to leave following my initiation. Earlier, Swami A had come down to tell me that Swami Swahanandaji had named me Jayanti. Now, Swami B approached and presented me with a chadar, which I still have. For me, it was a completion moment because both Swamis had taken part. Then there was Dad. My father was difficult, to sum things up simply, thus highly suspicious of everyone. They were likely to be like him, after all. Dial that up several notches with respect to Vedanta and Swamis. I had no idea what would happen when I brought him to the monastery, but I had to try. Swami B's natural understanding of and ability with people shone immediately. Disarming him with a gracious welcome, Buddhananda listened attentively while Dad talked on and on, bragging about himself. Seeing he had settled into his happy place, I was starting to wonder how we would break away. That's when Swami A and Michael arrived, offering us the opportunity to take our leave. Outside, Dad shook his head and looked dazed. There are monks? He asked. Yes, Dad. He never again said a negative word about Swamis or Vedanta. And having been against most things I was about to do, he called the night before I left for India to tell me not to worry. Wow. Buddhananda had inspired a transformation. Although I was sincere in my warm wishes for his future, Buddhananda knew that it had upset me when he left the Ramakrishna order. In the decades that followed, I would weather more departures, taking each in stride. Then I was just learning about monasticism and losing one of the first 2 monks I would know. I could not understand why one would leave, not that the why mattered. What did matter is that having been upset to see him go, made having him periodically back among us all the more wonderful. Calmer, surer. His words seemed to convey deeper wisdom, both ancient and new. His familiar laugh, clearer. Certainly, too, independence gave him broader scope to guide those who came to him. I'm still a monk, he told me during an early visit, perhaps remembering that I had been upset. James Barnett, Swami Buddhananda, Grandfather Morning Owl, mighty monk. That sounds right. Beautiful.
Thank you, Jayanti.
My own reminiscences are rather short. I first met Buddhanandaji when he came back the second time to help with all the remodel. It's funny because I didn't know Buddhanandaji, but I knew people who knew him, my sister Uli, other people, and they had tremendous respect for him. And so I knew I wanted to meet him because I knew he was something special. So when I got there, he was in the front yard talking with Swami Harinamananda, and Swami Harinamananda said, "Oh, this is Abai." And Buddhananda took me, and he took me around the front yard. He told me every plant. He told me its names, and occasionally the Latin name, by the way. He told me what they like, what they dislike, how to care, how to feed them, all the stuff. When we went to the front backyard, the same thing, probably all 40 minutes or something like that. I thought, this guy knows everything and still has this great love for the center. We came back in, and Swami said, oh, so you've met Abai. He's one of our helper devotees. And Buddhananda looked at me and he said, I thought he was the gardener. Buddhananda, I just want to say, when you've been coming here as long as some of us have, you see that sometimes swamis come and go. Most stay, but occasionally some come and go. Some leave for more householder relationships. Some, as Swami Swahanandaji, my Guruji, used to say, fizzle out. But some others just change their path a little bit and continue to grow and blossom. Buddhananda was one of those. And when I saw him, he was very much like any other senior Swami who had kept his vows, kept his spiritual sadhana very serious, very devoted, very diligent. And it just showed. He beamed. He really beamed. It was wonderful to be around, and I wish I would have been around him more. And I will say I did hear a couple of stories from the old days, and it may be that Swami Atmavidyananda, I'm sure, has more. But I did hear that Swami P used to like to pair up people in work pairs, and he liked to pair opposites to try to maybe shave off the rough spots or grind off the rough spots. And he would pair Buddhanandaji with Shiva Maharaj, Swami Atmatatwananda. And now people who know of the late, great Shiva Maharaj, he was very, I'm not going to go so far as to say he was a madcap saint, because he was very, very centered and wonderful, but he was a unique force of nature. And so for someone like Buddhanandaji, who's was an interior decorator, had a very great sense of balance and order, it must have been quite a pairing. And I remember he said two things about working with Shiva. He said, before Shiva attempts something, he makes sure to have both feet planted firmly in space. That was a pretty funny thing. And then I remember he complained to me one time that he said he vacuums the stairs top to bottom. I'm sorry, bottom to top. So it's the wrong way. But Buddhanandaji was really, truly someone special. And I'm so honored that I had a chance to have his darshan many times. So that is my reminiscence, as it were. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And thank you, sister, for the opportunity to read such beautiful reminiscences.
Thank you, Jayanti. Thank you, Abai. Abai, I didn't get a chance to tell you afterwards, after he said, I thought that was the gardener, he came to me and he's just slowly said, boy, that was a waste of time, as he winked at me. He had a great sense of humor.
Oh boy, that was...
So now I'd like to call on somebody from our internet. Anybody would like to raise their hand to start off their sharing? You'll have. Do you see any? Otherwise, I'll call on someone. If there's no one raising their hand immediately, I'll call on someone right now. Let me call on Subrata and Madhuri. Is there somebody there, Darcy?
They're waving.
They're waving.
Who's?
Subrata and Madhuri.
Okay, so get Subrata and Madhuri. So
Jeff has his hand up.
we'll get Jeff. We'll get Jeff next. Okay. Go ahead, Subrata and Madhuri. Let's put you on the pin you guys up there. Hi, you guys. Can you introduce yourselves to everybody here in San Diego and the internet world?
I'm Subrata.
I'm Madhuri, and our personal teacher is Swami Shraddhananda, a great soul, and our regular names are Jean and Jay Trailer.
And you guys are in Florida.
Yep.
We're in Florida now, but we were in San Diego for a long time. And before we joined the San Diego Center, um, before there was a house. And that was probably in the late 70s. And so, and Swami Buddhananda would come down with some other monks to give us spiritual talks in one of our devotees' homes, Giraja. And eventually, as obviously you know, a house was procured, and we were the devotees in San Diego. There weren't many, it was just a handful. We're, of course, real excited about that. And when we came in to see the house, we could see, well, yes, it's a nice house, but it didn't have any spiritual feeling necessarily. It was just a house. And, but the house was, we noticed, was in a nice neighborhood, kind of had an artistic flair. And, but it had those little niches in the walls. Those were already there. And then Swami Swananda sent down Swami Buddhananda to live there in the center by himself. And we would come by and visit him in the daytime just to see how things were progressing. And it was really interesting how he was getting things done. At that time, there was a unemployed law student who just needed a place to live, so he recruited him to paint the whole house. Didn't cost us anything.
And also Uli was this magnificent seamstress, and Swami Buddhananda picked out the, at that time, blue velvet material for the drapes, and Uli was a big part of it. And maybe there were other seamstresses too. I'm just not sure who they were.
But Swami Buddhananda just has, as other people have said this, artistic eye. And he saw the house, not just in relation to itself, but as part of a neighborhood which had other beautiful homes. And he was telling us all about the type of architecture and so forth, which we didn't know anything. And so part of the drapes that he designed and so forth that she mentioned and all was bringing the decorating of the house into coordination with the neighborhood. But of course, the main thing he did from an artistic point of view at that point was design the beautiful spiritual niches and the shrine. And the shrine at that time were 2 different bedrooms, and that was eventually, the wall was taken down between the 2 bedrooms, so that became a bigger bedroom. He did every little thing. The part of the center, which is now sort of the seating that goes back, Swami, you could point to where the library used to be.
In the back.
In the back.
Yes.
That was a different room. That was a library. So the wall was taken down. This was somewhat later. When it was a library, just one little detail he said, which I thought was cute, is he said, we furnished the library back here with stuffed animals for the children that come, because they don't make any noise. But so he cared about the children having some warm, fuzzy things to play with while their parents were out listening to the lecture. And just I'll just mention one other thing as an example of his artistic eye. I've got a little visual display here I can show you. I hope it comes out.
Shall I talk while you get it?
Yeah, sure.
Uh, Well, it's a photograph, a very special photograph that Swami Buddhananda took in Balboa Park. And at some point, he was selling some paintings and things, so this is it.
Let's see if you can you? Let's see. Is
You need
this,
to get rid of the glare.
how is this coming through?
Yes, yes.
Good. Is this a good angle and all?
We're getting a little bit of glare,
I
reflection.
mean,
Oh, that's more glare.
is that better?
That's
Look more glare, this glare?
That's good, that's better.
Okay, good. Well, today, in 2025, we have AI and Photoshop and all these things that you can, put somebody's image in, behind a certain thing and so forth. So what you're looking at is a golden Buddha, which appears to be floating in space among a beautiful treetops. Can people see that?
Yes.
A reclining Buddha. And it's golden. So the story behind the picture and how it came about, first of all, he wasn't a photographer. He borrowed a camera. And because when he was walking past the museum across the street from the center, he looked through a window and saw this golden Buddha. And the Buddha had light on it. But what made it astonishingly beautiful is the reflection in the window of the tree behind him. So this is an actual photograph with no touching up or anything. And so he had, after he took the photograph, he had several prints made. You probably can't see how big it is, but it's probably about 3 feet long and 2 feet high. One of our prized possessions and our memories of Swami Buddhananda.
It's been wonderful to see all of you on Zoom and to hear Swami Atmavijayananda's talk. And Swami Harinamananda, thank you so much for inviting us.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for sharing. It's good to see you guys. We're hoping you'll come to San Diego soon. At this point, I'd love to have a family member, Buddhananda, friend. Jeff, I think you was raising their hand. Would you like to, do you find Jeff there?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I'm not a family member for Buddhananda, but I am somebody that I've always considered him to be a member of my family. He, as Maggie said earlier, he was a very generous man. He was very open. He was very warm. He always invited you into his house.
Jeff, can I ask you where are you located now, and what was your relationship?
I live in London, United Kingdom.
Oh, I see. Okay. And what was your relationship with him? So that we just know.
Yeah, we were exceptionally close. I knew James for 15 years through Liam and Sylvia. I actually cooked for James, believe it or not, and he didn't actually mind my cooking, right? So, I mean, the funny story when he would also ask me, coming from Europe, he would say, can you bring some saffron rice? Can you bring some saffron? Can you bring various things? And I really want curry. So one day I remember cooking a vegetarian curry, and he walked in and said, "Smells great. What is it?" I said, "It's a vegetarian curry." He said, "Great. I used to have one of those for every day of my 20 years when I was a monk." It was quite funny. James is a blessed soul. He's a blessed man. I wouldn't yes, he had many different traits. I would say James was extraordinary. He was superhuman. I remember the first conversation I had with him, and it was 8 hours. And he said to me, "You're one of the only people that I've met in the world that you can talk about any of the subjects that I challenge you with." I've worked in over 120 countries in the world, and I've had a very privileged life. But it's people that enrich your life. James did enrich my life with not just wisdom and knowledge and love, knowing that even a small card. I used to spend Christmases with James, and even every now and again he would think of me by giving me a small card to say, "I'm here for you whenever you need me." There was unconditional love with James, which made it special. I The last time I saw him was January this year, um, and whilst it was sad, it was an important visit, a very important visit. I'll leave you one more note. You talk about birds, and you talked about two eagles, I think, Maggie, earlier. I was in his living room, and he just stood up and said, Jeff, stand now." And there was like 140 eagles that were coming out of the rock right in front. If you know, remember his living room, right in front there was a rock, and there was 140 eagles coming out and circling my car in front. And I'll never forget that. I don't think he will ever forget it either, because it was really miraculous. I'll leave you with this note. We live in a very fast technological environment. Life is fast, everything is fast. We've got to start remembering the positives and why we're here. And one of the biggest reasons we have in life is that we share with people. Love is to be shared. We are to share. James had a great ability to want to share. Okay. And his purpose in life was to enrich people's lives. And I'm sure, apart from Sylvia and Liam on here, and Maggie, I've spoken to you on the phone and across a few emails, but nobody knows me. And I'm probably one of thousands of people. When he was in Mexico, when he was in Australia with the Aborigines, when he was in Sedona, San Diego, St. Francis of Assisi's caves, and everywhere else where he would travel and he would spend time. He's a very special man. He will not be forgotten. I have a love wall in my house, and there's a picture of Buddhananda, and with a glass of exquisite wine, of course, by the fireplace. And there's a bronze owl, unique owl that I bought, which stands by him. It's always stood by him, and it's always going to stand by him. He will always, yes, he may have transcended, but he's never forgotten in my life or my heart. He's a very special man. Thank you.
The teachings that James Barnett Buddhananda would tell me was that whoever came to him, he made a pledge, whoever came to him for help or needed his service, he would not refuse. It was this unconditional love you're talking about. He wouldn't go out seeking to help people, but whoever came in his orbit, he would not refuse, and he would give them his complete attention. It's what in our
And he would say, just to finally finish, I remember the first time I walked through his door, and he said, "There's a reason you came through my door."
Yeah. In our spirituality, we call it sort of like work as worship. Everything to him was a worship, and so you didn't feel that you were a burden on him. You just felt joy in his presence. So,
Yes, exactly.
thank you so much, Jeff. Really, thank you. I want to have someone here in our monastery. So, Uli, would you like to come up? Your name was mentioned.
I've never done this.
That's okay.
So, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, good. As you know, I'm Uli, and As Madhuri told you, I did so the first set of curtains, not these. But I'll start at the beginning. My very first meeting at Vedanta was at Girija's place that Madhuri mentioned, or Subrata. There was just a small group. We met once a month on a Tuesday evening. And on my very first evening in March 1981, yeah, that's when it was. There was an Indian Swami being the speaker with a heavy Indian accent. I didn't understand much of what he was saying, but he chanted in Sanskrit. And that was so special to me, Swami Aparananda. And when one of the other members told me next month it will be an American Swami, as if, then you'll understand, I thought, oh, okay, but I like the Sanskrit chanting. Well, when Swami Buddhananda started his talk the next month, I still remember what he said. He said, sometimes in our spiritual life, things don't go so well, and also in your real life here, then we just have to work all the much harder. And I thought, hey, this is a man who really talks to us where we are. And I can learn so much from him, how to apply this Vedanta teaching that was still somewhat new to me. So one evening, not the first one, after we stood together and talked to him afterwards, I said, that's really nice of you to come and talk to just a few people, and you drive all the way from Trabuco. Without a moment's hesitation, he said, numbers don't mean anything. If you reach one person, that's all he said. And I thought, hey, that's a very different approach. In the volunteer groups where I was active, numbers meant so much. That was what counted. So, as everybody has been saying here already, I could learn so much from him. He was so accessible also for private counseling and really became my mentor. And then 2 years later, things got even better when the society decided to buy this property, and they sent Swami Buddhananda to come down and do you've already heard about this. And somehow, maybe through Madhuri, he knew that I had a sewing machine and recruited me to sew the curtains, not these. This was a real nice karma yoga experience for me. Every day, other devotees would come and help with this and that and visit him. And he told me how to do a project that was way bigger than what I had ever done before. In Vedanta, karma yoga means doing your work without attachment to the fruits and as an offering to the Lord. So that worked out very well. And he was, as you already heard, a wonderful gifted teacher, both in his talks and privately. And he had certain sayings that were short. He called them my aphorisms, like, we suffer when we resist. And I'm sure everybody here can think of situations when that applies. I don't need to give examples from my life. There was another incident, more personal. We were facing a family crisis at home where we might have to go for counseling. And I was kind of scared about this, but I thought, I can always go to the Swami, he will help me. Well, what did he do? And at that time when he gave his talk, at the end, he said, I'm now going to take a leave of absence of 2 months to go to Sedona to be with a small group of new devotees. And I thought, oh no, what do I do? There wasn't even time to sit down and talk to him, or just a very brief goodbye. And what did he say to me? He said, nothing will happen to you that isn't best for you. And this is very good teaching for the rest of your life. Here I am, 90 years old, and still thinking of all these things. So when he left for good, we kept in touch through mail and phone calls. And then I was so grateful, Swami Hariyamananda, when you called him back to come here again. We could visit again in person, and other people could meet him. And then it became too hard for him to make that long drive, which was way more than Trabuco, from Arizona. And so every time we had a puja preparation, the night before a big puja here, several of us came and helped prepare. And Swami Hariyamananda said, let's call Buddhananda. And we talked to him. The last time we talked to him, that was before Sri Ramakrishna's puja in March. We could tell he was ready to go, but peaceful. And he's gone now, but he will live on in our hearts and souls. I will always remember him with great gratitude and love. And one thing I wanted to say, if Subrata is still here, I got to play in your music group, I think starting at Girija's house. And we really still hear your songs every meeting, and that is wonderful.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you. When Buddhananda used to, when Buddhananda, one of the sort of the gifts when Buddhananda used to come was that Uli would make her famous chocolate chip cookies, which is a real treat. And that was only happening when James Barnett Buddhananda was here. So I was like, come on down. So we're privileged to have him here. Okay, let us go back to the internet. So we can call it, would you like to raise your hand or just hold your hand up so that we can find you? Is there anybody, Maggie, you can see if there's anybody also raising their hand?
Terry is.
Did you catch the name?
Terry
Terry.
and Michael. Yeah.
We are Terry and Michael Chastain, and I get emotional. I can't help it. I did write something. I'll see if I can go ahead and read it.
Can you tell us where you're zooming from and what's your relationship with him, just so we can get a orientation?
Yeah, that's the beginning. Michael met him at the Vedanta Society way back, and he's 81 now. How old were you then? Like
about 25.
About 25 years old or so.
Wow.
And you have a story. No, I'll tell his story.
Sure.
So he met Jim then, and then they both ended up moving to Sedona. And that was quite a while ago also. And they both lived there. And then it was about, I don't know, 22 years ago or so when I visited in Sedona, and I met Michael and I met Jim, and he married us 19 years ago.
Wow.
And yeah, and we took care of his mother. We lived with his mother for a few years.
About 3 years.
About 3 years, and took care of her and lived with her. And she had a nice house. And
I wouldn't expect anything less for Buddhananda.
yeah, and so we did that. So our connection with him was very deep. And one thing I've been learning some of the Buddhist practices, and one of them is harmlessness. Harmlessness, and Jim embodied the practice of harmlessness.
Mm.
He was always gentle, kind, and generous,
Yes.
welcoming many visitors into his home, like everyone says, to stay with him and receive spiritual guidance. He liked to cook. Michael and I spent many evenings at his dinner table, enjoying good food and conversation. He talked freely about death. In his humble way, he chose to leave this earth quietly. Yeah, the other night I felt his gentle presence near, saying his final goodbye before releasing his spirit into the world beyond to continue his journey there. I have no doubt it will be a good one. Did you have anything to add to that? Okay.
Well, I wanted,
Can I just add something? I just want to say, no, I'm going to cry. Thank you, both of you, so much. You were so helpful with my grandmother and such dear friends with Uncle Jimmy. And I can't tell you how much we all appreciated you, both of you being there for my grandmother. It just was extraordinarily kind of you, both of you, to give her the care you did. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your reminiscences and bringing out Buddhananda's, Jane Barnett's sort of compassionate nature. He was, you could say he had this spirit where it's called ahimsa in Buddhism, the sense of like, as you mentioned, non-harm, sense of, there's a non-harming, you can feel like animals can be in his presence and they wouldn't be scared. There's nothing to fear about him. He just had a warm, big, shining smile, like a very, just a mothering nature, a very nurturing, mothering nature. So thank you for bringing it out. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So I'd like to now have someone from the monastery. Michael, do you want to come up? Yeah, come up.
I'm Michael Black. I first met Jim when he gave the last lecture at this monastery before he left for Sedona. And the last 12 years from now, I was privileged enough to probably be the closest because I visited him over 20 times, spending at least a week each time, and then lived 4 condos down from him in Sedona for a year.
Which year was that?
This is from about 2015 until a year and a half ago.
Okay, so it was when he was coming to San Diego and back.
Yes, he was.
Okay.
Maggie, it's good to see you. We've never met, but it's nice to see you. And Jay and Jeannie, hello. There were a few things. You've covered almost all the things of Jim. I've heard all the stories, as have you. Jim loved to tell stories, and as he got older and older, he repeated the stories. And I learned that the mark of a true friend is never to tell someone that you were repeating the story. Because in Jim's case, you could actually learn from his repeating of the story. More and more things would come out. There are a few things that I know of with Jim that haven't been mentioned, and I think maybe I should. He had great love for Swami Prabhavananda, his guru. And Swami Prabhavananda had great love for him. Jim was one of his attendants for the last year of Prabhavananda's life, which is great, great privilege. He was there when he died. Prabhavananda's last instruction to him was, Jim, his name, I should preface this, his monastic name was Sat. And as we all know, that means being or truth. And in Jim's case, it was being. And Prabhavananda said to him, Sat, be a brilliant monk. And by God, if anyone I know was a brilliant monk, it was Jim. And he didn't, leaving the monastic life was not leaving the monastic life. It opened up freedom for him. What he really left was the confines of the monastic order. But he never stopped being a monk, never stopped being a Swami. He was a Mahapurusha. He was a great, great soul. A few other things that I should mention, Jeff mentioned, who I've never met, but I would like to, his work with the Aborigines in Australia. He really was one of the founders of putting a fire under them, of getting them to realize that they were real human beings. To this day, Yvonne Goolagong, the tennis player, who he was friends with in Australia, they were great, great friends. She is in essence carrying on his work with the Aborigines. He did wonderful work in Australia. No one really knew about it too much. He helped the men very, very much in Australia. Another thing that you should know is he related his deepest spiritual experience to me. And this was in the last 3-4 years of his life. He was a great soul in the sense that he had samadhi. He had samadhi in the shrine of the Hollywood Center, and he was engulfed in light. I don't think he ever confided that to anybody else, but it is a central part of his life from that time on. Jim's meditation was to sit in his chair, black chair, easy chair, facing the window where the eagles were. And he and I saw 29, but I don't have the record. Jeff has the record. We saw 29 together. But he would sit every morning with his coffee and have a nice red robe, a little chadar around him. And his spiritual practice was to see the divine, to feel the divine in everything. And as you got to know Jim more and more, I realized that that was just a token sitting. He was doing that all the time. He was seeing the divine in everyone. A great, great soul, very, very generous. People took money from him that he gave willingly, never gave it back. He never said a word. A couple other things I should mention. Trabuco is the way it is now because of Jim. Jim went to court and helped the lawyer so that the housing development that they wanted to put all around Trabuco, Jim spent a year of his life fighting that in court and out and doing the legwork and even testifying in court. Trabuco is where it is now because of that. Also to the shrine trail that he did. That was largely Jim. And particularly the Indian, the Hopi sign. Great soul. Anyone who knew Jim was privileged to know him. And so we really are blessed. This is his place. And I think of Ramana Maharshi. Jim was a non-dualist, as was, of course, Ramana Maharshi. But before Ramana Maharshi died, about a week before he died, his devotees were lamenting. They're going, "Oh, Bhagavan, where are you going? We can't, what are we going to do without you?" And Ramana Maharshi, Bhagavan said, "Where can I go? I'm here." And so looking around here, this is Jim. He's here. He's here in all the hearts of those who loved him, and particularly all of those who he loved. And there were very, very many. So I'm grateful to be able to talk to you about him. I'm grateful to be able to know him. And thank you very much.
Wonderful, 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 brother. Thank you, Michael. We'll have, Michael, what I was listening to an audio tape today of one of his lectures. And in the lecture, he talked about, he said, when he became a monk, you know what his mom said? His mom said, what did I do wrong? That's what his mom said.
She never acknowledged the fact that she never thought much of him being a monk.
Really?
It wasn't a profession for him, for her.
Yeah.
You know, he was, so you're still doing that kind of stuff?
Well, he said in the lecture that even though he was 70 years old, his mom still thought of him as a child. I mean, mom was always trying to correct him. And so it was just funny the way he was saying it. And then he thought to himself that, no, Mom, it's not what you did wrong. It's what you did right. It's what you did right.
And he took care of her for a lot of years, too.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Great karma.
Yeah, I think that's, I'm slowly, as we take care of our parents, I mean, acknowledging, like more and more what he had to do. But he had tremendous energy. He'd only eat one meal a day when he was here. One meal, that was like at 5 o'clock. Yet it was hard to keep up with him. He was 95 years old, and he was full speed. Once he woke up in the morning, we just went to shops and we did everything. He used to drive a big black Cadillac all the way from Sedona to Hollywood, and yeah, and he would keep it in pristine condition. It was amazing.
He was driving, I can remember him still 92, 93 years old. He was driving.
Right. Yeah,
and driving well.
Phenomenal, and he could eat whatever he wanted.
There's one other thing I wanted to mention. I forgot to mention. His favorite place, he showed me in Sedona, which became my favorite place. And if you've ever visited Sedona, go look this place up. He used to say the most spiritual place in Sedona is not the vortexes and all that stuff that he knew the lady who created those for a book. Those were fiction. And he knew her. But he said, the most spiritual place that I know is Montezuma's Well.
Montezuma's Well.
And it's just down, it's about 5, 10, 15 miles from Sedona south.
Yeah.
Just off the interstate. That was an Indian ritual center. And he took me there, and we used to go there when I was living there at least once a week. He said about Montezuma's Well that there's only one other place that he's been that had the spiritual atmosphere that this place did, and that was a Shiva temple in India. And we used to go there and meditate. And I think that was maybe the highlight of my time with Jim, was going to Montezuma's Well and sitting near the lower creek and meditating. You felt like you were in a hermitage in India. And we would be in silence for 1-2 hours.
Wow.
So if you ever go, that was
Montezuma's
Jim's
Well.
favorite place.
Got it. Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much. I'd like to invite, I believe it's Love? Yes.
Leilani Love.
Leilani Love, yes. Go ahead, let's unmute you, and can you tell
Hi,
us a
my
little bit
name-
about where we're zooming from and what's your relationship with our James Barnett Buddhananda?
Hi, my name is Leilani Love. I'm currently in Boulder, Colorado, and I met Grandfather Morning Owl, that's what he was to me, in 2017 when I was going through a dark night of the soul. And in silent meditation, I heard go to Sedona. And I said, I don't want to go to Sedona. And they said, go to Sedona. So I listened. And I believe it was to me, Grandfather Morning Owl. And I did his grief work. I rented a room from a woman in Sedona, and she was doing his grief work and in silence. And I then did his grief work in 2 days. He said, wow, you're an old soul. It's taking you shorter time. And we just really connected. And I loved his stories and our time together. I would often visit and stay in his guest room, and we talked till midnight. Sometimes I'd say, Grandfather, I have to go to bed. And we were so alike. He was so connected to nature. I have this vase of, I find feathers. And I remember showing him my feathers one day, and we put them all out, and he was just like a kid. He just was jumping up and down and very connected to nature and crystals. He had a crystal in his house, in his china cabinet, that would grow. So every time when I would come visit, I'd run to that cabinet because it literally was growing. And I asked some of the experts in Sedona about crystals, and they said they never heard of that. And I believe it's because of his high vibration. He was a man with a big heart, unconditional love. He knew more about my life than probably most people. I opened up about my childhood and the traumas, and he just felt like a spirit family that I never had, more so we were alike than my family of birth. I think that happens often, that we get incarnated into, we choose families where we can grow the most, where we're not really connected to them. And he opened a lot to me about some of what he grew through. And I loved his stories. He was a storyteller. He would share lessons in his stories. He even had a story that I love so much about sitting in his living room and a little golden frog hopped by. And he was very connected to hummingbirds. I got him a hummingbird feeder and a hanger one year, and I miss him. We would talk on the phone for hours, and he always said, Leilani, if you're going through a dark time, lean into spirit and trust and know that everything's going to be okay. And he said years ago, when he was in Hollywood and he was young and he was out of money, he had an art show and nothing sold. And so he kind of had it out with spirit. He said, Spirit, I'm doing everything you're asking of me. You need to take care of my basic needs. And he heard, it's taken care of. And it just gives me chills. It's taken care of.
Wow.
And I think he said his rent at that time was $40 a week in Hollywood. It just blows my mind. And the next day he gets a phone call from his mother. And his mother said, someone has passed and I'm sending you a check for $10,000, which was probably about, 180 back then, equivalent of $180,000 today. And another story of when he was in Australia, how many people he touched with his grief work, because I've shared some of that. I'm a healer as well. I've shared some of what he taught in my practices: deep listening, meeting people where they're at, unconditional love, holding space, non-judgment, karma yoga. And I hope one day his autobiography gets published, because I know he was writing that. And I was actually with him for 7 or 8 days in March of this year, and I knew he was leaving soon. He was so ready to go. But his connection to nature, his following his own heart and not doing what society says is the right path, not following the money, not following the materialism, giving people money that needed it. I mean, he really is a living luminary. His legacy is a legacy of love, of service, of light, as a healer. And he walked his talk. He went through some dark times in Sedona, and I always was impressed how he navigated those times, those lessons, those blessings. So I really believe I was guided to go to Sedona in 2017 to meet him, to get to know him, to love him, to listen. He was a talker. I'd listen to his stories. And sometimes we'd watch movies and laugh, and we'd cry too. There were some movies that were emotional, and he'd cry. And he'd talk about his time with his brother on the beach in Santa Barbara, and picking up shells and bringing them to the museum. And he led an epic life. Was it easy? No. Was his childhood easy? No, not at all. Not at all. But guess what? He used that as a lesson and alchemized it. And he taught me that was the training for him to be the healer he was. And I used that wisdom myself for my childhood. I allowed it to be the training for the healer I am. So I'm so grateful that I listened. I didn't want to go to Sedona. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even get on my phone to look. I just, when spirit calls, I listen. I've learned that. And I know it was to meet him. And I have a very dear friend in Sedona, and she went through a dark night of the soul when her fiance had a heart attack and died right in front of her. And so I came out, and guess who was there? Grandfather. He did a ritual at her house with sage and an owl feather, and he was really good at exorcisms. He just was an incredible man. So I'm honored to be here with all of you, to know you, to love you, to know you, Maggie, Sylvia, Liam, Mayora. I'd like to know Jeff. You sound like a really cool guy. Everyone here, Catherine, Jay, Jenny, and Swami. Thank you for putting this together, because he was so special to me, and his legacy will live on forever. And, you know, I'm grateful that he left the Vedanta Center, because he wouldn't have touched as many lives. There's people in Australia. And one day he said to me, Leilani, I know you don't have a quote family. Do you want to be my spirit grandfather? And I said, yes. And we cried and hugged. And so I love you, Grandfather Morning Owl. Thank you for gracing my life.
Thank you so much.
Wisdom.
Yeah.
And see you when I see you.
Thank you. You know, you reminded me of it takes a lot of courage to follow your own heartbeat. And you know, he even to leave the monastery and follow his what he felt is his own path. It takes a tremendous amount of courage, because there's going to be a lot of negative talk about you. And one of the things I loved about him was that he didn't care really about what others thought about him. He didn't care about others' opinions. He just was a light upon himself, which led his own path. It's like that Frank Sinatra song. He did it his way. So I really admired that about Buddhananda, or James Barnett. So thank you so much for sharing. I'd like to call Swami Atma Vidyananda to share a little bit.
I knew him as soon as he joined the monastery. My mother used to volunteer in the bookshop in Hollywood, so as anyone knew, she would know who the new monks were, and she knew that Jim was a very good gardener, and that I liked to garden, so she immediately, of course, introduced us. So whenever I was at the temple, I would seek him out, and he would show me things in the garden. Before the monastery was there, there was a large lawn that went up from the back of the temple up all the way to Vine Street, and he put in a kidney-shaped garden right in the middle of it to raise the flowers for the worship. And so he would always proudly show me what he was doing. A couple other things that some people haven't mentioned yet. He was part of the Snowmass interreligious dialogue for a long time, and I think he represented Native American traditions, if I'm not mistaken. And the other interesting thing is that he did that medicine wheel at Trabuco, and apparently some Native Americans in the area didn't like it. They thought, you know, white people shouldn't be involved in their ceremonies. So they went up to complain, and he so impressed them that they gave him a pipe. So kind of like your parents, you know, it just completely won them over. Yeah. He was, as people have mentioned, he was one of these people that seemed to be able to do anything. He was just so good at everything. I think that probably made it hard for him sometimes to work with most of the rest of us who aren't just good at everything. But he never showed that. Well, like he would always, you know, accept people just wherever they were and work with them. But it probably was a challenge when you're that smart and that talented. All the rest of us probably seem a little dumb. But he was a great soul, and he'd always make you feel very welcome. Let's see, when he moved to Sedona, my office assistant, Alok or Alex, and I both went and took his week-long course. What did he call it? Psychosynthesis or something like that. And so we enjoyed that immensely. He was very hospitable, and we got a lot out of that. So we enjoyed doing that. And then when he'd come to visit the monastery here, Harinamananda always invited me to come join them so that I could help again with the garden. So, starting out as a garden connection and ended with a garden connection. Okay.
Sorry, did you visit his place?
Oh yeah, we stayed in it since I'd known him so long. He had Alex and I actually stay with him during that class.
And what was his place like?
Oh, it's impeccable, of course. I mean, every piece of every object in there was, some sort of work of art and had some sort of history to it. Oh, that was something I was going to mention too. He furnished this whole place for $10,000. I think he had a shopping angel that went around with him. He would go, when we visited in Sedona, he had this lovely sport coat and so forth. And he said, oh, well, I just go to the secondhand store and pick these up. Now, he was not your real standard size. He was a little bit on the short side. He was, and when I go to the store, I have a lot of trouble finding it. It's like I'm at the last size in the shelf and there are like 3 choices. He goes into a secondhand store and finds exactly the thing that fits him. And he did the same thing with this furniture. He knew exactly what kind of furniture to get. He knew somehow it would just land in front of him. He would go to secondhand stores, he'd go to Mexico, and somehow he got all just the right things. And of course, the place looked beautiful. And his place in Sedona was very immaculate too, full of kinds of artwork, lots of artwork.
Thank you, Swami.
Oh, yeah, another thing. I took the Radiance Technique Reiki course and became a teacher, and I actually taught him Reiki. So whenever he would have somebody that would call him for healing, he would include me. He'd say, please add this person to your energy list. And so we'd send energy to various people.
Swami, you're reminding me that one of the things he said about life in his talks was, everything's a miracle. He goes, I don't believe in miracles, but when you look at something and really analyze it, it's miraculous. So when you traveled with him, when I traveled to get things, we'd start like in the morning and go to night, things just opened up. He knew exactly, kind of like, it had a vision of like, this is what I want. And somehow that vision we'd find the shop and he goes, this is it, this is it. He had this certainty. I mean, we're like wishy-washy. We're like, I don't know if I want it or not. He's like, yes, this is it. And then he also used to tell me, you know what? I have a parking ferry with me. So wherever we used to go, a parking spot would always open up also. So not only did he have a shopping angel, but he had a parking angel as well carried with him. It was a magical experience. When I traveled with them, things just happened. You couldn't explain it, they just happened. Is there anybody else on the internet that would like to say something as we start to close up here? You have to raise your hand. Maggie, do you see anybody?
Sylvia has her hand up.
Okay, let's get Sylvia here a chance to speak. Sylvia, if you go there, okay.
Oh,
Hi, Sylvia.
Hi. I really miss him very much, and I wanted to say so much, but I've known him for such a long time. He was a member of my family, and he lived 5 minutes away, and we would talk every day. If he had a problem, like my lights are off, is Liam around? So Liam would run over and help him with that. It's just, I just feel like there's something missing, even though I know he's with me. There's so many things. So there are so many things that remind me of him, and he brought so much, into my life that I treasure. I will treasure him forever. And I'm sorry I'm crying, but he was I was attached to him. He went through my mother's death with me. Every tragedy. My dogs, he'd come over and do ceremonies for them. He even loved them when we go to dinner. He always had a bowl of water there for them. I don't know what else to say. It's just, there's just too many things over the 25 years. We introduced him to Jeff too. Jeff is our son. We spent Christmases together, Thanksgivings. He was an integral part of Liam's in my life. We miss his presence, even though we know his being is around.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, thank you, Sylvia.
I'm deeply grateful to everything that he brought to my life. Not to be all. Hi, Maggie.
Wow.
Okay.
Sylvia, I just want to say thanks so much. You were there those last couple of years when he really needed more support, and you and Liam were just there for him all the time. And I so appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. We loved him very much.
Maggie or Sylvia, can you maybe share, like, how did he, in spirituality sometimes, how did he pass away? Did he, just for those of us, can you, do you know how he passed away? Was it, who was with him when he passed away? Or how
Yeah,
did he pass away?
I had set up hospice, and a caregiver, Peggy, checked in on him several days a week, and then hospice nurse twice a week, and then there were some volunteers. But they called me and said he wasn't doing well. So Easter weekend, I flew out and had 3 days with him. Very precious time. I mean, he slept a lot. He wasn't eating anymore, and so he just stopped eating, and he was so ready to go. And we just had these wonderful, very precious conversations, and then he'd fall back asleep, and then he'd wake up and we'd have another, just a little gem of a conversation, and then he'd fall back asleep. And he was, I mean, I felt like his spirit was leaving. His body just took a little bit longer to decide to go to, but it was about 10 days after a couple weeks after I visited, that he let his body finally let go. Yeah, very peaceful. He was so incredibly at peace.
Yeah.
I just really, oh my gosh, just incredibly at peace.
Yeah. He was such an independent spirit. He did everything himself. He was a self-made person.
Very
So
much.
I wonder how he was receptive to the help that was given to him.
Oh, very stubbornly refused to have any help for a long time. And I mean, I had been encouraging him to have some help, but yeah, but Peggy just cajoled her way into his life, and they became fast friends, and she loved hearing his stories, and she just she has 10 grandchildren and just a big heart. And so he just accepted. She was very smart about it. She said, "I'm not here to help you. I'm here to just hear your stories." And then she started to help out with this and that and the other thing. But she said to him, and she laughs when she tells this story, that she said, "I won't do anything without your permission. So if you don't want me to clean, I won't clean. I'll ask for your permission." And little by little, he said, "Oh, yes, okay."
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you so much.
He attracted very kind people to him.
Yeah.
Was not surprising to me. At the end, when I was there, I set up 24/7 care, and so he had some. I didn't want him to be alone after I left, because I had to come back. And everybody was just so kind and so lovely, and just so caring. But I think he really just attracted that to himself.
There's a saying, like attracts like.
Yeah.
So there's something that he attracts the people that who he represents. So
Yeah, very much.
thank you so much. I want to hear anybody last. Bonnie, would you like to share anything? Okay. And if there's anybody in the internet who'd like to share, we'll make a final share and then we'll close it up.
So much has already been said. I'll just throw in a couple of fun facts. But I do have to mention Swami Atma Vidyananda Swami. All of your talks are from multiplicity to unity. And it was a magnificent talk, magna always. And I mentioned because Buddhananda, one of his biggest themes is all is sacred. And if you see all is sacred, that is unity. And when you feel it, then your consciousness expands, and that is the biggest joy. So thank you, Swami, for your talk. And one thing about Buddhananda, that people always talk about how friendly he is, how warm, but he is also intensely private. And what I mean is, after he associates himself with the outside world with compassion and kindness and friendliness, he retires into his private spiritual sphere. And, Ramakrishna always said, retire into solitude, and, well, I can't paraphrase him, and then meditate. So he was an example of that. And just a couple of fun things. We went to see him in Sedona, and he entertained us with homemade guacamole. So, he is a great cook. And also, as Darcy would say it, even though, he has this magical touch, right? He would have his plants, and I don't remember what plant it was, but if this is the average growth, his would be like this, and people were like, wow, how, what, where, when? The magic is his chanting. And so, divine vibrations, that's what he had, that was his magic. And so his old Cadillac, and Darcy would tell me that usually those kinds of old Cadillacs don't really work very well, and I don't know the technical terms, but yet his car always worked for him. So that was Buddhananda's magic. So I do want to say one more thing that hasn't been said before. He has a prayer that he said often, and it's been ingrained in me, so I will close with that. Oh Lord, by thy grace, by thy infinite grace, let my life be a sacrifice for thee. And I think the sacrifice here isn't giving up ice cream or chocolates. I ride in my son's car on road trips, but the sacrifice meaning letting go of the smaller, larger. And I try to do that in my life. So let us all let go of the smaller for the larger. Take us up there.
Swami Vidyananda asked me to tell how I met him. And he and I were both a part of a group of people who were studying with indigenous people. And one of my teachers, who was an indigenous elder, he was almost blind at the time, but he could see in ways that other people can't see. And we were at a gathering at a friend's backyard, and he sort of wheeled on me and he said, you want counseling for your work and your spiritual life, right? I was in the process of changing careers. And I said, yes, that's right. He said, you go to Buddhananda. I had no clue who Buddhananda was, and he didn't tell me. But I found out from somebody else in the group, because he wheeled on me a second time 15 minutes later saying, you've been sitting there 15 minutes and you haven't done a thing about what I told you. And so I quickly got up and found the phone number and called him, and he was living in Tribuco at the time. This was 1980, 81. And he said, I told him that I needed counseling. And he said, sure, I'll be giving the lecture in Hollywood this coming Sunday. And why don't you come there? And then we'll have the first session right after the service. And so that was my first session with him. And from that point forward, in the beginning, I would go to Tribuco. And the first time I went to Tribuco, I was telling him about a dream. It was not exactly a nighttime dream, it was more a daytime dream. And it was about peace and a peace dome. And I was describing the dome to him that I was seeing. And he stopped me. He said, wait, don't move. We were in the kitchen. We were in the kitchen at Tribuco. He said, stop. And he left. And a few minutes, he went to his room. And a few minutes, he came back, and he had a long, narrow box. He opened the box, and there was a set of drawings in there. And the drawings were of my dream. And he kept it for many years, but fast forward, he gave it to me later. And so I have those original drawings. What else? Swami Vijayananda mentioned Snowmass. So he was the indigenous representative to Father Thomas Keating's group of the interfaith group, and they met at different members' homes or places throughout the country. And when it was his turn to host, he asked some friends to come and help, and I was one of the friends that he asked to come. So he did it at his mom's house in Sedona. So I was there when he was the host, and I was helping with the cooking and the serving and that sort of thing. I didn't get to, those of us who were helping didn't get to attend all the meetings, but we did, when we weren't cooking or serving, we could come to the meetings. Then later, I was still working with the indigenous people, and a native elder had put me on the mountain for what's called a vision quest. And then I did the second one with a different elder. And then Buddhananda, well, he was Grandfather Morning Owl by that time. He put me on the mountain, my third and fourth vision quest. Both of those were in the Sedona area. They were not at the same place, but they were both in the Sedona area. And then I visited him many times in Sedona, many experiences, but the most recent, I was there in 2020, and he was 92. He was still doing all his cooking, all his housekeeping, everything himself. And I asked him if he would like to go out to eat, and he said, no, you come here, I'll make us a meal. Wow. So he made this beautiful meal, and he was such an artist through and through, in the kitchen, in the dining room, everywhere. The meal was a work of art. The most recent time I saw him was November of 2024. And he was in hospice care, and I met Peggy and spent some time with him a couple of times when I was visiting there. But previously, before 2020 and 2019, when I would go there, I would stay with him in his home. He had a lovely guest bedroom, and I visited him a number of times over those years, and a beautiful soul and dear to my heart. forever.
So at this point, I think I'd love to have Maggie come up, and she has made a video, about a 10-minute video, to sort of just give us the overlay of Buddhananda, James Barnett, his life. And so she's collected photos from various people here, and she's going to present that. So Maggie, anytime you'd like to present.
All right, let me see if I can share this correctly now. Share sound. Hold on. There it is. Oops. Nope. I'm trying. Okay, hold on. This is not working yet. But I will get it. Hold on just a second. There we go. One more time. Forgot that I had closed it up. That sharing?
Not yet.
Okay, hold on. Sorry. It just started on its own without opening. Hold on. We'll get it. Okay. There we go. All right, one more time. Let me see if it came up. No, it's not. Why is it not doing? For some reason, it's not showing up on my desktop. Hey, Kev, are you still on? I can see it, but I can't see it when I try to share.
You want to maybe go to share. Can you bring up the just bring up the video there, and then go down the bottom. You'll see share, and then click on the video.
Yeah.
There you go. We can
Okay,
see.
can you see it now?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
good. Okay, great. It was just this little square, and I couldn't get it to. Okay, and hopefully the sound is optimized. Okay, here we go.
You got it.
There is peace in the heavens, peace in the sky. There is peace in the waters, the mountains. the stars. There is peace in the moonlight, the quiet hours. There is peace in God's creatures, peace in our life, peace beneath the surface of struggle and strife. There is peace like lost treasure hidden below.
Maggie, that was beautiful. It was just beautiful. And thank you for using the songs that our Subrata Jay has written and sang. It was just a beautiful tribute to Buddha. I think it expresses who he is, and it's just wonderful. There's a question that was asked, Maggie, was that your father? Can you tell the relationship? Your father is Buddhananda's James Barnett's older brother. Can you
Older
just tell us?
brother. So Jim passed away just shy of his 97th birthday, and my dad is 99 and a half. And
Your
both of them,
his father's still alive right now.
yes, yeah.
Wow.
And both of them they always moved a lot. That's, I think, people say, well, how did they live so long? Well, they always moved a lot. They both loved hiking and just being outdoors and always doing something. Right?
Is that the secret to longevity?
That's what they would say.
I see. Okay. Thank you, Maggie. Really, thank
You're
you so
welcome.
much.
Thank
I
you
wanna-
all for sharing the photos and the music, beautiful music. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Yes, it's really been wonderful. Everybody just, we only see through the lens that we are. So you guys have helped kind of like create a whole 360 spectrum of Buddhananda and James Barnett and grandfather owl, grandfather morning owl. But yeah, I think it's just it's a beautiful experience. I want to end off with this. There is a portrait that he gave me. This is an artwork that he gave me that I have above my room. Can you guys see this here? Okay, so I keep this above my head in my bedroom, and that's where he wanted it. So he actually gave it to me and said, "This is he went to the art gallery and had it framed, and then gave it to me." And I think it's nice. I'd like just to read the poem as a way to end this. It is called White Buffalo Calf Woman. Have you forgotten me? I am the Earth Mother, White Buffalo Calf Woman. Once again, I come to offer you the sacred pipe, the symbol of wholeness and unity, the joining of man and woman, of heaven and earth, of truth and love. Take it, use it, become it. Heal my sacred body, the very land you live on. Recreate the sacred hoop of the people. This time, large enough to encompass the people of the world and hold them in unity. So that was his message that he demonstrated through this imagery here. He's such a beautiful presence. We are going to miss him. And I think, as some have said, that he is in our hearts. He lives through us. And so the way to most honor him, I feel, is just to demonstrate, is to live according to his principles, his love. And that love should be, he's given enough love to us, and we should be able to express that love to others. So I wanted to say thank you so much to everybody for this journey. This is what we call satsang. It's called holy company, when we surround ourselves with the people of the same vibration, and because of Buddhananda's presence, we feel uplifted. And I think that's just a remarkable way to leave this. So I want to thank every one of you, and I want to invite everyone in our Zoom world that if you come to San Diego, please come visit the house that Buddhananda built. We'd love to have you here. As he demonstrates, you're always welcome. You're always welcome here. So thank you, everybody. I want to leave off just this last, we're going to go back to the prayer that he said, because as I'm thinking about the prayer, he mentioned this, Asato ma satgamaya, tamoso ma jyotirgamaya. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from darkness to light. And that's what I think his life demonstrates. He takes the darkness within us, shines the light on it, and then makes us feel whole. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Jai Ma.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.